At the end of the day, what I like to do is I like to divide it into three different buckets. The first bucket that you see on the left is what happens and what you do before the incident or the breach occurs. The middle one is what happens during the incident, and the one on the right is what you do after the breach, which is just as important. So let's dive into the first bucket, which is before. And this is something that people like myself, privacy advisors and lawyers will often tell you. The more you prepare beforehand, the easier it's going to be during the fact. So obviously preparation beforehand involves putting in place processes and procedures like incident response plans, disaster recovery plans, training and awareness for staff, exercises to simulate breaches. But I think the first point, and that's why I put it all the way at the top there, is understanding what data you need and not collecting more than that data, which is what we call data minimization. This is something that's becoming, as companies amass more and more data that then gets potentially put to the side, not used, not properly handled, data minimization is becoming more and more of a crucial issue. So really think about that and let that sink in terms of what is one of the key things that you can do is consider whether that data needs to be collected in the first place, because if it's not collected, then it can't be breached. So that's the before bucket. The during bucket is obviously the crucial time. It's crunch time, it's money time, it's where everyone's running around trying to figure out what's happening. And we're often operating in non-ideal circumstances, and in circumstances in which we have a limit to the knowledge that we have. We're finding stuff out on the go, which is why, and we're also operating under very tight time constraints, because if it's a breach of personal data that then potentially needs to be reported, then we're talking about a matter of hours, not a matter of days or weeks. And so we're really under very tight constraints. And in those circumstances, it's crucial to know and to understand what I call who is driving the bus, right? So I'll never forget this situation that I had when we were dealing with a pretty significant data breach of one of our customers. It was late at night, at least in Tel Aviv, and we got on a call. We had maybe, I think, about 20 to 25 people on that call. So we had legal, we had marketing, we had the C-suite, we had external counsel, we had SOs, we had everyone that was anyone in the company, internal or external, was on that call. And that call was complete mayhem because there was no clear understanding of who is driving the bus. And when there is that designation and understanding of who's driving the bus, whether it's most of the times it'll be the CISO or the security person, at least in the audit or the fact-finding portion of it, everyone else needs to take a step back and let that person do their job and lend a helping hand when needed. Obviously, effective communication is an easier thing to say than to do, but we see this especially in large organizations where departments don't necessarily know what other departments are doing. So it's crucial to make sure that you have communication lines open and make sure that everything is working, ticking properly. One final note on the kind of during phase, which I think is important, and I mentioned before external counsel, confidentiality when you're talking about external counsel can be absolutely crucial. And so think about utilizing that confidentiality, especially in the beginning, where you don't know what has happened, who it's affected, and how it's going to impact your organization. Make sure to get if you need to get external counsel involved and to be able to talk more freely and to be able to have that conversation, that is something that should be considered and should be thought about and is good practice when you're dealing with these types of situations. If we go to the third bucket, the after part is often the part that gets put to the wayside. And the reasons are pretty obvious. It takes time, it takes a budget, it takes people away from things that they want to be doing, growing the business. But potentially, this might be the most important part of the breach cycle that you're handling, because if you haven't learned the lesson, you haven't implemented the remediation that you came up with in your report,